Well, here we are in St Andrew's graveyard or churchyard, which I have to say has got to be one of the biggest and most beautiful churchyards you could possibly imagine, and that certainly seems to be the opinion of all the many people that walk through. And what we as a church are trying to do is share it a bit more and develop it a bit more, develop it as a haven for wildlife and wild plants. I'll come back to that later maybe, but also as a haven for people to walk through in a busy world and unwind and reflect and visit their relatives if they're buried here and things like that, and generally enjoy the biggest green space in Ashburton. The downside of all that is that it's a very big area to manage, and we can't really manage it until we get fully on top of it, and we're working to get on top of it. And to that end, we're hoping in the future, certainly when the coronavirus stuff is all out of the way, we're hoping to get regular working parties, probably on a Saturday morning, to actually deal with the day-to-day management of it, which can be all sorts of things: removing ivy from graves, keeping the paths clean, keeping the brambles back. Definitely what we don't want to do with St Andrew's Churchyard, this is a definite, is that we don't want to make it all prim and proper and pristine and make it look like a garden of remembrance at a crematorium, because that would lose its dotty sort of English character. That is actually the last thing we want to do, but at the same time we want it to look as if we've cared for it. So there are one or two graves that frankly don't look very cared for because they're covered with either ivy or brambles, and nowadays people are taking a lot more interest in ancestry, and if Granny is buried or great Granny is buried here and they're told that, and they come here and they can't find great Granny because she's buried under ivy or bramble, I personally, and I think others agree with me, think that's a great shame, and a working party can help us to achieve that balance between wildlife and a dotty churchyard in the best sense of the term dotty, and something that looks as if it's cared for. Incidentally, we're going to, in the autumn, they're in the potting shed now, we've got about a dozen bird boxes that we're going to put up along the wall, and we hope younger people will take an interest in those. We've got some insect hotels. There's a hedgehog I know for a fact lives just down there on the right. We're hoping to put a hedgehog box in for him, and even a friend of mine tells me there are tawny owls in the churchyard, so we found a template for a tawny owl box, and we hope to put a tawny owl box in too. And last but not least, only this very week, only yesterday in fact, I put in an order for some extra benches for people, which we're going to scatter around the churchyard, so that people can, these are in memory of people who've died, been sponsored by people locally, not paid for by the church, sponsored by local people. And that means that people can come in and literally sit down, have a picnic if they want, and enjoy the quiet. There's lovely views of Ashburton. If you look around here now, you can see the hills that surround Ashburton. You get different views of the church from different points in the churchyard. There is wildlife, there's all sorts of wildflowers there, far more than we actually know about, I suspect. There's a lot more wildlife than we know about. And of course the graves themselves, they might look higgledy-piggledy and dotty, but in actual fact they're historic, and they tell a really good story, and it's well worth browsing. We don't mind if you walk on the grass. Just be careful please, because it's a slightly uneven surfaces. The path is a bit uneven too, so please be careful if you come. But there's actually quite a lot to actually explore and see. But if you just want to be quiet and reflect and take a step back from a rather busy, stressful world, this is the place to be.